Okay, let's unpack this. Today we are doing something really quite specific. We're moving from, the usual analysis into a very practical, hands-on, instructional deep dive.
That's right. We've got this fascinating request. Three quite complex starter recipes. They all come from the Caribbean, pulling influences from Jamaica, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic.
And the connection, the thing that ties them all together, is this incredibly bold, maybe even like risky combination of ingredients. We're talking rum, maraschino cherries, and bacon in starters.
Exactly. And our goal today isn't just to, give you the recipe titles. We want to provide a really exhaustive, technical tutorial. We're digging into the mechanics behind how these things work.
Every single gram, every milliliter, we're breaking it down.
Yep. So for you listening, whether you're a dedicated home chef or just really curious about food science, this is about understanding the function of every single component. Why these specific amounts? Why these techniques?
We're basically aiming to produce the ultimate manual for these three specific Caribbean appetizers. Forget just taste. We're talking volatile compounds, we're talking viscosity, heat transfer, emulsification, the whole 9 yards.
It's going to be quite the journey into applied culinary science, actually.
Right, so here's where it gets technically really, really interesting.
Yeah.
You got these three power players: rum, maraschino cherries, bacon. And you're combining elements that seem almost contradictory, right? You have intense sweetness, high acidity from fruit, potentially the cherries too.
Yeah, very high sugar content, especially in those cherries.
Then you throw in bacon.
Yeah.
So you've got rendered fat, crispy protein, saltiness, smoke, very different texture, very different flavor profile.
Yeah, a huge contrast. Yeah.
And then the wild card, rum, ethanol. It's volatile, it carries flavor, it interacts with heat in complex ways. Putting all of that into a starter, which is supposed to, start the meal, prep the palate, that feels like walking a tightrope.
It absolutely is. It's a study in controlled contrast, you could say. These three, the bacon, the rum, the cherries, they aren't just flavoring agents. They're fundamental structural components. They dictate the texture, the mouthfeel, the entire trajectory of how you experience the dish.
Okay, so let's break them down individually first. Bacon seems like the anchor here.
It really is. And across all three recipes we're looking at, the instruction is crystal clear. The bacon must be cooked until crispy.
No soggy bacon allowed.
Absolutely not. It might be diced, chopped, crumbled. The form varies slightly, but that crispiness is non-negotiable. Functionally, well, it's obvious, right? It brings the smoke, the salt. It's the savory counterpoint to all that sweetness from the fruit and the cherries.
Well, you mentioned structure. How critical is that crispiness beyond just, tasting good?
Oh, it's technically vital. Think about the texture. Once you render out the fat and crisp up that protein matrix, you get this fantastic shatter, a real crunch.
Right.
And that shatter provides a crucial contrast to what are often very soft textures like cooked fruit or a smooth sauce. Imagine if the bacon was just sort of chewy or soft, the whole thing would fall flat. It would be texturally monotonous. That crispiness is essential for the sensory balance.
Okay, bacon, crispy anchor, got it. Now the rum, this seems more variable.
Hugely variable, and deliberately so. This is where the chef really modulates the final profile. We see different types being called for specifically.
Like what?
Well, you've got aged dark rum in one, then light rum or white rum in another, and even concentrated rum extract in the third.
Extract. Interesting. Why the differences?
It all comes down to how the rum needs to interact with the other ingredients, especially with heat and liquids. Dark rum, is aged longer, often has molasses notes, more complex congeners. Those are the flavor compounds beyond just alcohol.
So it's richer, deeper.
Exactly. It brings depth. It holds up well to cooking, to simmering, where some of that harsh alcohol might burn off, but the deep flavors remain. It's perfect for recipes that involve sustained heat or pair with richer ingredients like coconut milk.
And the light rum.
Light rum is, well, lighter, cleaner, less aged, fewer of those heavy congeners. It gives you a brighter, sharper alcoholic kick. It works beautifully in raw preparations where you want that hit of booze, but without the heavy baggage of molasses or oak. Think fresh fruit, lime juice.
It cuts through.
Precisely. Its specific gravity, its volatility, it behaves differently, especially when it's not being cooked down. The choice dramatically changes the end result.
Okay, that makes sense. Dark for depth and cooking, light for brightness and raw. What about the extract then?
Ah, the extract. That's about delivering concentrated rum flavor without adding significant liquid or alcohol content. It's a very specific tool for a specific purpose, which we'll definitely get into.
All right. And the third part of the trinity, maraschino cherries. These always feel a bit decorative.
Often, yes. Their role is fascinating. Functionally, they deliver an intense burst of pure, simple sugar. They are incredibly sweet. But unlike fresh cherries, their structure is kind of fixed, right? They've been brined, dyed, soaked in syrup.
So they don't break down.
Exactly. They hold their shape. They mainly contribute this vivid, almost unnatural red color. That visual pop is key. It cuts through the other colors, the yellows, the greens, the browns. It's a visual anchor.
A radiant beacon, as one description put it.
Yes, a bit poetic,
Yeah.
but it captures that visual intensity. And their placement is often quite deliberate. Sometimes it's a very precise trio, maybe stacked for height. Other times they're halved and mixed in, so you get little bursts of that intense sweetness throughout.
So primarily visual and a blast of sugar.
Primarily, think of it like this. If the bacon is the smoky, salty base note, the maraschino cherry is that super high-frequency, piercing sweet note. It resonates against the richness.
Okay, so you have these three powerful contrasting elements. What stops it from just being a chaotic mess? Is it the geographical influence? The
Yeah.
blending of traditions?
That's a huge part of it. You see threads from different Caribbean cuisines weaving together. Jamaica often brings that boldness, the confident use of rum, maybe some spice complexity. Costa Rica leans into fresh, vibrant, high-acid tropical fruits and mango, pineapple, passion fruit.
And the Dominican Republic.
There, you often find a focus on intense sweet and sour balances, sometimes achieved through specific cooking techniques like sautéing onions and peppers as a base.
Yeah.
Each recipe we're looking at is like a localized solution to the same equation. How do you balance rum, cherry, and bacon in an appetizer? Each one takes a slightly different path.
Fascinating. It's like controlled chaos, engineered to work.
Precisely. Engineered contrast.
Okay, let's dive into the first specific blueprint. This one's called the Scarlet Shore Symphony. You mentioned Jamaica and Costa Rica as influences here, and the key characteristic seems to be cooking, a simmered liquid base.
Exactly. This recipe hinges on a fundamental step of thermal reduction. You're creating a cooked sauce by simmering dark rum, coconut milk, and passion fruit pulp together. This isn't a quick toss. It requires a dedicated 35 minutes, and most of that time is about applying controlled heat.
So technically, this one sounds like the most demanding of the three.
I'd say so, yes, because success relies on achieving two things: a stable emulsion between the coconut milk fat and the other liquids, and developing a specific viscosity, a certain thickness in the final sauce. Get the heat wrong or the ratios off, and it just won't work.
All right, let's get granular. The ingredients, you said precise ratios are key.
Absolutely critical. Let's look at the liquid foundation first. You start with 25 grams of coconut milk. Now, grams suggests using a scale, implying precision. And 25 grams isn't a huge amount, suggesting it's likely full-fat coconut milk. You need that fat content for richness and, crucially, for the emulsion.
Okay, 25 grams coconut milk. Then the rum.
Next is 30 milliliters of dark rum. Notice the switch to volume here. And critically, the volume of the rum, 30 milliliter, is actually more than the weight of the coconut milk, 25G, which is roughly 25 milliliters depending on density.
Oh, interesting.
Oh,
So
wow.
the rum character is meant to be really forward.
Definitely. It ensures that alcoholic complexity isn't just a background note, it's a major player. And that alcohol content also affects how the sauce reduces and thickens. Then, for acidity and tropical flavor, you add 20 grams of passion fruit pulp. Again, weight suggests precision. This provides the sharp, tangy edge.
The sweetness.
Very little added sugar, just 3 grams of refined sugar.
Right.
This indicates the recipe relies more on the natural sweetness concentrated from the passion fruit and perhaps the coconut milk during simmering, rather than just dumping in sugar.
Okay, liquids down. What about the solids?
The main structural element besides the sauce itself is a pretty substantial 40 grams of chopped quick bacon. That's a good amount, meant to be distributed throughout the thickened sauce.
And the finishing touches. The cherries and mint.
Yes, and again, very specific. Exactly 3 maraschino cherries. Not some cherries, but 3. This points towards a deliberate plating, likely forming that visual focal point, that radiant beacon.
And the mint.
This is where it gets wild. 45 grams. Wait, let me check the source. 45 mint leaves, freshly chopped.
45 leaves. That sounds like a ton of mint.
It's an enormous amount. Think about chopping 45 mint leaves. That implies a massive concentration of aromatic oils. This isn't a subtle garnish. It's a major flavor component designed for a powerful aromatic impact, almost a deliberate clash with the richness of the sauce.
Wow. Okay, so how does this all come together? The mechanism, you said it's a two-stage thermal process.
Right. Stage 1 happens before you apply heat. Step 1, the harmonious symphony initial blending. You combine the liquids and the sugar. Dark rum, coconut milk, passion fruit pulp, sugar.
Stir them together?
Yep. The immediate goal here is starting the emulsification process. Coconut milk has fat, triglycerides, and water. Rum is mostly ethanol and water. Passion fruit pulp is acidic water with solids. Normally, oil and water don't mix well.
Right.
Yeah.
But the ethanol in the rum acts as a sort of temporary bridge, a mild surfactant. It helps the fat globules from the coconut milk disperse a bit into the watery parts. It's not a stable emulsion yet, but it gets things started. The real magic happens when you add heat. Which brings us to step 2. Culinary palate awakening the simmering process.
Exactly. This is the core of the recipe. Probably takes 15-20 minutes of that 35-minute total time. The instructions are crucial here. Gently simmering and constant stirring, described rather poetically as with the grace of a maestro.
Okay, less poetry, more science. Why gentle simmering? Why the stirring?
Gentle heat is key to avoid disaster. If it boils too rapidly, the coconut milk emulsion can break the fat, separates out, it looks greasy, texture's ruined. Too high heat can also scorch the sugars from the passion fruit and the added sugar, giving you a burnt taste. Gentle simmering avoids that.
And the stirring.
Constant gentle stirring does 2 things. It ensures even heat distribution, preventing scorching on the bottom of the pan. And, importantly, it continuously agitates the mixture, further helping to break down fat globules and disperse the passion fruit pulp, encouraging that stable emulsion to form as the liquid reduces.
So what's actually changing chemically during this simmer?
2 major transformations. First, dealing with the alcohol. Ethanol boils at a lower temperature than water, around 78 degrees Celsius or 173 Fahrenheit. So as you simmer, a good portion of that pure ethanol vaporizes.
Burns off the booze?
Well, it reduces the harsh alcoholic bite, yes, but what's left behind are the deeper, more complex flavor compounds in the aged dark rum.
Mm-hmm.
The esters, aldehydes, things that give it those caramel, vanilla, molasses notes, those are less volatile, so they remain and become concentrated.
Ah, okay. So you're concentrating the flavor of the rum, not just the alcohol content.
Precisely. Second transformation. Flavor concentration and viscosity change. As the water content from the coconut milk, rum, and passion fruit evaporates, everything else gets concentrated. The sugars, the acids, the coconut solids, those rum congeners. This naturally thickens the sauce. It develops body, viscosity. It becomes something that can coat the bacon, not just a thin liquid.
Okay, but hold on. You're applying quite a bit of heat for a while here. Dark rum, okay, maybe it holds up. But passion fruit, isn't that quite delicate? Aren't you risking cooking off all those bright tropical high notes? Boiling away the freshness?
That is an excellent point, and it's a deliberate trade-off inherent in this specific recipe's design. You are sacrificing some of that raw, peak freshness of the passion fruit.
So why do it?
The goal here is integration and depth, not bright, raw acidity. By simmering, you're mellowing the sharpness of the passion fruit acid. You're transforming its flavor profile from purely bright and tangy towards something deeper, maybe slightly jammy, cooked. The heat changes those volatile fruit esters into more stable compounds.
And these cooked notes play better with the rum and coconut.
Exactly. They harmonize better with the deep molasses and caramel notes of the dark rum and the richness of the coconut fat. You lose the high C note perhaps, but you gain this richer, more resonant chord. And the texture payoff, that thick coating sauce, is arguably the primary technical goal here. Without the simmer, you wouldn't achieve that viscosity.
Okay, sacrificing peak freshness for integrated depth and texture. Makes sense for this style. So the sauce is simmered, thickened, flavors concentrated. What's next?
Step 3. Embracing the Smoky Whispers bacon integration. Now you add the bacon. Remember those 40 grams of crispy chopped bacon?
Right, the anchor.
The timing here is absolutely critical. The bacon goes in after the simmering and reduction is complete. You fold it into the hot sauce off the heat, or maybe with minimal heat just to combine.
Why not simmer the bacon in the sauce? Wouldn't that infuse flavor?
It would infuse flavor, but it would destroy the texture. Remember, rule number 1. Bacon must be crispy. If you simmered that crispy bacon in the liquid for 15-20 minutes,
It would get soggy.
totally soggy. The liquid would rehydrate the protein and fat. The salt in the bacon would draw moisture in via osmosis. You'd lose that essential shatter. By adding it after the reduction, the bacon pieces get coated in the hot, flavorful, thick sauce, absorbing the flavor, but they retain their structural integrity, their crispness for immediate serving.
Got it. Timing is everything for texture. Okay, sauce made, bacon folded in, now the dramatic finish.
Step 4 and 5. Adornment and aromatic tapestry, the garnish strategy. This is about the final presentation and the immediate sensory hit. First, the visual, that precise trio of maraschino cherries. Placed deliberately, likely on top for that pop of color and visual height. It draws the eye.
The radiant beacon.
Indeed. But then comes the olfactory assault. Those 45 freshly chopped mint leaves.
Yeah, I'm still stuck on that number. Why so much?
It's about creating an overwhelming aromatic cloud. Mint leaves are packed with volatile oils, primarily menthol. When you chop them finely, you rupture the cell walls, releasing a huge amount of these oils.
And you add them right at the end.
Right onto the warm or hot mixture just before serving. The warmth immediately helps to volatilize those mint oils, sending them straight up into the air. So the very first thing the diner experiences, even before tasting, is this intense, powerful wave of cool, fresh mint aroma.
Which contrasts completely with the warm, rich, smoky tropical sauce they're about to eat.
Exactly. It's intentional sensory dissonance. It wakes up the palate, creates intrigue. It's a very bold finishing move.
Wow. Okay, that's quite a process. Now, what about the pro tips? There was something about passion fruit ripeness.
Yes, the source material strongly emphasizes using passion fruits only when they are at their tantalizing peak, meaning peak ripeness, peak aroma, peak flavor.
But I kind of want to push back on that a bit. If you're cooking it down anyway and you need acidity to cut through the rich coconut milk and rum, wouldn't a slightly underripe passion fruit be better? More acid, maybe holds up better structurally to the heat?
That's a very logical thought process, focusing purely on the acid component, the pH. An underripe fruit would indeed have higher acidity. However, the likely reason the source specifies peak ripeness is about the complexity of the flavor, not just the acid level.
How so?
Underripe passion fruit can be quite sharp, sometimes almost green or slightly acrid tasting. Peak ripe passion fruit, while still tart, has developed a fuller spectrum of aromatic esters, those compounds that give it its unique floral, tropical scent and taste. Even when cooked down, those more complex, rounded fruit notes are desirable. They complement the dark rum's profile better than just sharp acidity would.
So you're concentrating the developed fruit sugars and esters, not just the raw acid.
Exactly. The recipe seems to be aiming for a rich, sweet-tart balance, where the sweet comes significantly from the concentrated natural fruit sugars, enhanced by that tiny bit of added sugar, rather than relying solely on a blast of raw acid to cut the richness.
Okay, that makes sense. Flavor complexity over just pH. The other pro tip was about the rum.
Yes, emphasizing the use of a premium dark rum. Why? Because, again, it's about what survives the cooking process. A cheap dark rum might have simpler flavors, maybe harsher alcohol notes. When you simmer it and evaporate off some ethanol,
You might be left with not much flavor.
or just a flat, sort of generically boozy taste. A premium, well-aged dark rum has a higher concentration of those desirable non-alcoholic flavor congeners, the complex esters, aldehydes, traces of oak, caramel, vanilla from the aging process. These compounds are more stable. They don't evaporate easily with the ethanol.
So they get concentrated along with everything else.
Precisely. They provide the depth, the richness, the lingering complexity that makes the final sauce taste sophisticated and satisfying, not just sweet, tart, and vaguely alcoholic. It ensures the flavor profile has resonance, makes you want another bite. That's the crescendo the source mentioned.
Right. It's about the quality of the flavor foundation that remains after the reduction.
Okay. Scarlet Shore Symphony Complex. Demanding, focused on depth and integration. Okay, now let's pivot completely. Recipe number 2, Caribbean Sunset. If the symphony was all about heat reduction and integration, this one is the polar opposite.
How so? What's the vibe here?
Think bright, vibrant, fresh. It pulls from Costa Rican and Jamaican influences, really celebrating raw tropical fruit. The key concept here is enzymatic freshness and speed. There is absolutely zero cooking involved.
Zero cooking. So it must be much faster to make.
Significantly faster. The total time is listed as 25 minutes, and that's mostly just chopping and mixing time. No simmering, no reduction.
Interesting. So if it's all raw, the ingredient focus must shift quite a bit. What's the base?
It's dominated by fresh fruit. Look at these quantities. 50 grams of fresh mango peeled and diced. That's the star.
50 grams is a good chunk.
It is. And supporting that, you have 30 grams of fresh pineapple, also peeled and diced, and 30 grams of fresh papaya, peeled and diced.
Mango, pineapple, papaya, classic tropical trio. So that's 110 grams of just raw, high-moisture, soft fruit right there. That's the canvas.
Exactly. Now compare that large fruit mass to the other flavor components, which are used in much smaller, more concentrated amounts. You've got 10 grams of finely chopped red onion, that sharp, pungent allium bite.
Okay.
10 grams of fresh cilantro, chopped, bringing those bright, volatile, almost citrusy, herbaceous notes. Then our friend the bacon makes an appearance. 20 grams, cooked and crumbled. Note the different form factor, crumbled rather than chopped, maybe for better distribution in a raw mix, but still crispy.
Still crispy, non-negotiable. What about the liquids? No simmering here, so.
Very different liquid profile. We have 20 milliliters of light rum, big switch from the dark rum in the symphony, and 10 milliliters of fresh lime juice providing that essential bright acidity, plus salt and black pepper to taste. Basic seasoning.
And the cherries, are they the trio again?
Nope, handled differently here too. It calls for 10 grams of maraschino cherries, but specifically halved, and they're mixed into the toss.
Ah, so instead of being just a garnish on top, they're distributed throughout. Little bursts of that intense sweetness mixed in with the fruit.
Precisely. It makes them an integrated part of the flavor experience in every bite rather than just a visual element you might eat separately.
Okay, so the whole philosophy here is different. Raw, fresh, bright. How is it actually made? The mechanism must be simpler.
Deceptively simple. It's basically a rapid chemical toss. The steps are minimal.
Go on.
Step 1, combine everything, all the diced fruit, the onion, cilantro, crumbled bacon, light rum, lime juice, salt, pepper, halved cherries into a medium bowl. No heat, no staging, just dump it all in.
Okay.
Step 2, toss gently. Just enough to coat everything evenly with the lime juice, rum, and seasonings. You don't want to mash the fruit.
And step 3.
Step 3, serve immediately, like right now. Do not pass, go not collect $200, get it on the plate in front of the diner.
Why the urgency? What happens if it sits around?
This is where the deceptively simple part comes in. While the method is easy, the timing is critical because of the chemistry happening in that bowl from the moment you mix it. Two main things are working against you if you let it sit: osmotic pressure and enzyme activation.
Okay, break those down. Osmosis first.
Right. You've added salt and lime juice, acid, to the surface of the fresh fruit. The concentration of dissolved stuff, solutes, salt ions, acid molecules, is now much higher outside the fruit cells than inside. Nature hates imbalance, so water starts moving out of the fruit cells trying to dilute the salty, acidic liquid on the outside.
So the fruit starts weeping, gets watery.
Exactly. It loses its internal moisture, becomes softer, potentially mushy, and the whole mixture gets diluted and watery at the bottom of the bowl. Not pleasant.
Okay, that makes sense. What about the enzymes?
This is potentially even more important, especially with pineapple and papaya in the mix. Fresh pineapple contains an enzyme called bromelain. Fresh papaya contains papain. Both of these are proteolytic enzymes.
Meaning they break down protein.
Correct. Now, there isn't a ton of protein in the fruit itself, but these enzymes, especially activated by the acidic environment of the lime juice, also work on the cell walls of the fruit, contributing to that softening and breakdown. They accelerate the degradation of the fruit's texture.
So the acid, while adding flavor, is also kind of speeding up the fruit getting mushy because of the enzymes.
In this raw context, yes. The low pH environment created by the lime juice, combined with the action of enzymes like bromelain and papain, means that the structural integrity of that perfectly diced raw fruit starts to degrade pretty quickly. Let it sit for, say, 20 minutes or half an hour, and you'll notice a significant difference in texture. It loses its bite, its freshness, hence, serve immediately.
Right, preserve that just chopped texture and brightness. Now, the rum choice here, light rum. Why is that so crucial for this raw style? Why not the dark rum?
It comes back to complementing versus overwhelming. Light rum has a cleaner, sharper profile. Fewer of those heavy molasses, oaky, deeply caramelized notes you get from aged dark rum.
Which would clash with the fresh fruit.
Dramatically. Imagine pouring a heavy, dark, molassesy rum over fresh mango and pineapple with lime juice. It would just muddy everything. It would feel heavy, out of place. Light rum adds that desired alcoholic complexity, a bit of a zing, but it does so cleanly. Its brighter esters, maybe some subtle citrus or vanilla notes depending on the brand, harmonize with the high-acid fruit and the lime. It provides contrast without dominating or weighing down the freshness.
Clean booze for clean fruit makes sense.
Essentially, yes. Dark rum belongs with reduction and richness. Light rum belongs with brightness and acidity.
Okay. Now, this recipe also offered a couple of pro tips for adjustments. One was spicy.
Yes, the spicy option. Add a dash of cayenne pepper. This is interesting because cayenne brings heat primarily through capsaicin.
The stuff that makes chilies hot.
Exactly. Capsaicin works by stimulating specific nerve receptors, TRPV1 receptors, in your mouth that perceive heat. Importantly, adding a little cayenne powder doesn't significantly change the texture or the water content of the dish. It just adds that clean heat sensation.
And how does that heat interact with the tropical fruit flavors?
It's a classic pairing. The heat provides a counterpoint that actually seems to enhance the perception of the fruit's natural sweetness. It also helps cut through the richness of the bacon bits that are in there. It adds another layer of complexity without compromising the fresh texture.
Okay. And the other option was sweet.
The sweet option, add a drizzle of honey. If the fruit isn't perfectly sweet, or if you just prefer a sweeter profile, honey is suggested.
Why honey specifically, not just, say, more sugar?
Honey works well in cold applications like this for a couple of reasons. First, it's already a liquid or semi-liquid, so it incorporates easily without needing to dissolve like granulated sugar might. Second, honey is primarily inverted sugar fructose and glucose. Fructose is perceived as sweeter than sucrose, table sugar, and has a slightly different, fruitier flavor profile that complements the tropical fruits well.
And does it add texture?
It adds a little bit of viscosity, yes. A slight coating quality, a smoother mouthfeel, which can be quite pleasant in a raw fruit salad like this. Again, it achieves this without needing any heat or reduction. It just integrates nicely, balancing the tartness from the lime and any less sweet fruit.
So Caribbean sunset, fast, fresh, raw, all about immediate service, light rum, and balancing fruit-acid salt booze right in the bowl. A total contrast to the symphony.
Night and day, really. Shows the versatility of that core trinity depending entirely on the technique applied.
All right, on to our third and final case study. This one's called Whispers of the Caribbean. The influences here are listed as Dominican Republic and Jamaica. And the description mentions sautéing and sweet and sour flavors. So this sounds like maybe a middle ground between the cooked symphony and the raw sunset.
That's a really good way to think about it, actually. This recipe involves some cooking specifically, sautéing, but it's much shorter and gentler than the deep simmering of the symphony. It aims for a balance, bringing out flavors through heat, but retaining some brightness. And it uses that unique ingredient we flagged earlier, rum extract. The prep time is 35 minutes, same as the symphony, but the type of cooking is very different.
Okay, 35 minutes sautéing sweet sour. Let's look at the ingredients. You mentioned a shift back to volume measurements for some things.
Yeah, notice the mix here. We start with 2 slices of bacon. Not weight, just slices. The instruction is to fry them until crispy.
Standard procedure for the bacon.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Then for the sauté base, it's 1 tablespoon of diced sweet red onion and 1 tablespoon of finely chopped red bell pepper. Smaller quantities measured by volume.
Tablespoons? Okay. What of the fruit? Mango was huge in the sunset.
Here, it's significantly scaled back. Only 2 tablespoons of mango chunks. See the difference. Not 50 grams diced fine, but 2 tablespoons of larger chunks, playing a supporting role rather than being the star.
Interesting change in function.
Definitely. Then we have 2 tablespoons of finely chopped cilantro, again for that herbaceous freshness.
And the liquids and flavorings. This sounds like where the complexity might be.
It is. You use 1 whole lime, but critically you use both the zest and the juice. That's important.
Why both?
Lime zest contains aromatic oils, which are largely fat-soluble. Lime juice contains the water-soluble acids. Using both gives you the bright acid and the deeper, more fragrant citrus oils. Then, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, that's our sautéing medium, and will help carry those zest oils.
Okay, oil, lime zest, lime juice, and the rum component.
Here it is. 12 tablespoons of rum extract. Tiny amount, super concentrated flavor, plus salt and white pepper to taste.
White pepper. Why white instead of black, like in the sunset?
Most likely for aesthetic reasons. White pepper provides the heat from piperine, just like black pepper, but without the little black flecks. In a potentially lighter colored sautéed mixture, those black flecks might be seen as visually distracting. White pepper gives you the spice without the specks.
Huh. Subtle detail. And the cherries.
Maraschino cherries are listed simply for garnish, so back to being a purely visual top note, like in the symphony, perhaps, rather than mixed in like the sunset.
Okay, so bacon, onion, pepper, mango chunks, cilantro, lime zest and juice, olive oil, rum extract, white pepper, cherry garnish. Got it. How does the mechanism work? You called it a tropical adventure.
Yeah, that's the source's term. It's based on controlled sautéing to soften ingredients and extract flavors into the oil, followed by a very quick integration of the liquids and seasonings.
Step by step.
Right. Step 1 and 2, bacon preparation. Fry those 2 slices until perfectly crispy. Then dice the cooked bacon and set it aside. Same principle as the symphony. Keep the bacon separate from the main cooking process to preserve crispiness.
Got it. Bacon is waiting.
Step 3, the sauté base. Now you heat the tablespoon of olive oil in the pan, probably medium heat. You add the tablespoon each of diced sweet red onion and chopped red bell pepper, along with those 2 tablespoons of mango chunks and the 2 tablespoons of chopped cilantro.
All go in together.
Seems so. And you cook them, stirring until they're softened. The goal here isn't really browning or caramelization, Maillard reactions. It's gentle heat to soften the cell walls, release some internal moisture, maybe slightly concentrate the mango sugars, and crucially, to let those fat-soluble flavor compounds from the onion, pepper, and cilantro infuse into the olive oil. Tenderize and infuse.
Okay, softening, not browning. How long would that take?
Roughly. Probably just a few minutes over medium heat.
Yeah.
You want them tender, pliable, aromatic, but not mushy or deeply browned.
Makes sense. What happens after they're softened?
Step 4, acid and oil addition. This is where you build the sauce or glaze really quickly. Into the pan with the softened veg, you add the lime complexity, the zest first probably, to bloom in the oil for a second, then the lime juice. You add the olive oil, which is already in there carrying flavors. Then that crucial 12 tablespoons of rum extract goes in, along with the salt and the white pepper.
So all the liquid and potent flavorings hit the pan at once with the softened solids.
Pretty much. It's a rapid infusion and slight reduction phase.
Which leads to step 5 and 6, integration.
Exactly. You stir all that together and cook it for exactly 2 minutes. That's very specific.
Why 2 minutes? What's happening then?
It's just enough time for a few things. First, any residual alcohol in the rum extract, extracts often have some alcohol as a solvent, will definitely vaporize. Second, the highly concentrated rum flavor essence gets integrated into the mixture. Third, the lime juice will reduce very slightly, concentrating the flavors and creating a light glaze that coats the sautéed ingredients. It's a quick melding.
And then the bacon comes back.
Yep. After exactly 2 minutes, you take it off the heat, or keep it very low, add the diced crispy bacon back into the pan, and just stir to combine. Again, the goal is coating the bacon with the flavorful glaze without letting it sit in liquid long enough to get soggy. Short integration preserves the crunch.
Okay. And the final step.
Step 7, serving. Spoon the mixture into a bowl or onto a plate and finish with that maraschino cherry garnish for visual appeal.
Right. Now let's tackle the elephant in the room. The rum extract. This seems like the most unusual part of this recipe.
Yeah.
And the source offers a specific substitution. If you can't find rum extract, use 1 tablespoon of dark rum.
Mm-hmm.
That substitution feels weird. You're replacing half a tablespoon of super concentrated low-volume extract with a full tablespoon of regular liquid rum. Why double the volume and introduce liquid alcohol when the point of the extract seemed to be avoiding that?
This is the absolute key technical puzzle of this recipe, and you've nailed the contradiction. Using 12 tablespoons of extract delivers a potent rum flavor punch with almost zero added liquid. It keeps the sauté relatively dry, allowing for that quick 2-minute glaze formation without making it soupy.
So why suggest adding twice the volume in liquid rum as a fix?
My interpretation is that the source is prioritizing achieving a comparable intensity of rum flavor over maintaining the exact liquid volume consistency. A standard dark rum, say 40% ABV, is vastly less concentrated in pure flavor compounds than an extract.
So you need more of it to taste the rum.
Exactly. That 1 tablespoon of dark rum is deemed the minimum amount required to provide a noticeable, comparable rum flavor signature in the final dish. Yes, it adds more liquid, roughly an extra half tablespoon compared to the extract. Yes, it adds alcohol that needs to burn off in that 2-minute window, which it likely mostly will.
So it slightly changes the final texture. Maybe a slightly looser glaze?
Potentially, yes. The final glaze might be fractionally thinner or take fractionally longer within that 2-minute window to reduce to the same consistency as if you'd used the extract. But the source seems willing to accept that minor textural variation in order to achieve the necessary flavor impact. Flavor potency trumps exact liquid volume in this specific substitution guideline.
That's a fascinating compromise. It tells you how important that strong rum note is to the dish's concept.
It really does. They want that whisper of the Caribbean to be clearly audible, even if it means tweaking the moisture content slightly.
And, like the sunset recipe, this one also includes the pro tip about adding a pinch of cayenne for heat.
Yes, reinforcing that idea that a little bit of clean heat works well across these different textural preparations. The Rick sauce, the fresh toss, and this sweet-sour sauté. That tropical heat element seems universally compatible with the rum cherry bacon base.
Okay. Whispers of the Caribbean. A middle path using sautéing, balancing sweet and sour, careful heat control, and that really interesting use of extract for potent flavor without volume. Right, so we've gone through all three recipes in pretty painstaking detail. Scarlet Shore Symphony, Caribbean Sunset, Whispers of the Caribbean. Three starters, all using rum, cherries, and bacon, but ending up in vastly different places. What's the big takeaway here? What does it all mean when we synthesize this?
I think the core lesson, connecting it all, is about culinary modulation. It's a masterclass in how technique, precise measurement, and specific ingredient choices allow a chef to take the same fundamental flavor building blocks, that sweet, salty, smoky, boozy, fruity combination, and manipulate them to create completely distinct sensory experiences.
So it's all about the how, not just the what.
Absolutely. Let's explicitly compare the technique contrast. Recipe 1, the symphony, simmering and deep reduction. This involved prolonged, gentle heat application to build a rich, thick, integrated warm sauce. It fundamentally transformed the ingredients. Took 35 minutes, focus on molecular change.
Okay, recipe 2.
The sunset, immediate enzymatic tossing, zero heat. All about combining raw ingredients and serving instantly to preserve peak freshness and texture. Relied on acid and salt for flavor melding, not heat. Fastest prep at 25 minutes, focused on preventing degradation.
And recipe 3.
Whispers, controlled sautéing and quick reduction glazing. Used short duration, medium heat to soften specific ingredients, extract flavors into oil, and then create a light, concentrated glaze using lime juice and extractum. A middle ground.
Okay.
Also 35 minutes, but focused on selective cooking and rapid flavor infusion.
3 totally different methods apply to the same core idea.
Exactly, and the cooking times reflect complexity, right? The raw toss is quickest, the simmer and the sauté, involving more steps and heat control, both take longer.
Now, let's look at the rum differentiation. This seemed really key. Can we map the rum choice directly to the technique?
I think we can, very clearly.
Go for it.
Dark rum in the symphony. Why? Because its complex, heavy-bodied profile with molasses and aged notes could withstand the prolonged simmering. It paired naturally with the rich coconut milk base. Its depth was essential after reduction.
Makes sense.
Light rum in the sunset. Why? Because its clean, bright, less complex profile was needed for the raw, high-acid environment. It added alcoholic symmetizing without overwhelming the fresh fruit and lime. Perfect for a no-cook toss.
Right.
Rum extract, dark rum substitution, and whispers. Why? Because the sautéing and quick glazing method needed potent flavor impact without adding much liquid. The extract delivered that efficiently. The dark rum substitution aimed for similar flavor intensity, even at the cost of slightly more liquid, because the profile needed to cut through the cooked savory notes and the strong limey oil base.
So the rum choice wasn't arbitrary at all. It was dictated by the physics and chemistry of the preparation method.
100%. It's a chemical decision as much as a flavor one.
Okay, let's do the same for another ingredient, mango. How did its role change?
Perfect example of ingredient modulation. In the symphony, mango was completely absent. The focus was purely on passion fruit for tartness.
Right.
In the sunset, mango was the star. 50 grams, diced small, raw. It provided the primary structural base, the sweetness, the bulk of the fruit texture. Its role was central.
Okay.
In Whispers, mango was dramatically reduced to just 2 tablespoons of chunks, and it was sautéed. Its role shifted from being the structural base to being a flavor element, releasing sugars when cooked, providing sweet counterpoints to the savory onion and pepper within the glaze. It became more like a seasoning component than the main event.
Wow. Same fruit, 3 completely different functional roles based on quantity, preparation, and cooking method.
Exactly. And you see similar shifts with the Cherries garnish trio, halved and integrated, simple garnish again, or the bacon chopped, crumbled, diced, small changes, big impact.
So, for the listener, for the learner at home, what's the practical application of all this analysis? How can they use this information beyond just making these 3 specific recipes?
I think the key takeaway is understanding control. These recipes are blueprints that demonstrate how you, as the cook, can manipulate texture, temperature, and flavor balance. If you want a starter that feels dense, warm, deeply aromatic, comforting, you now understand that achieving that requires embracing thermal reductions, simmering, choosing ingredients like dark rum and coconut milk that hold up to heat. You accept the trade-off of losing some peak freshness for that depth.
Okay. And if you want the opposite?
If you want sharp, bright, vibrant, with lots of textural contrast like the sunset, then you know the technique is minimal heat, relying on acid and salt, and crucially, disciplined timing for immediate service to preserve that raw integrity. You choose light rum, fresh herbs, maybe more textural elements like crumbled bacon.
So it's about understanding the relationship between technique, ingredient choice, like dark versus light rum, XX versus liquid, and the final sensory profile.
Precisely. It shows how seemingly minor tweaks, cooking versus raw, 30 milliliter dark rum versus 20 milliliter light rum, simmering for 20 minutes versus sautéing for 2, completely redefine the dish. It empowers you to think about why a recipe is written the way it is, and potentially how you could adapt these principles to create your own variations, maybe swapping fruits or trying different spirits, but understanding the technical implications of those choices.
It's like having a set of control knobs for flavor and texture.
That's a great analogy. These recipes just show you 3 different settings on that control panel. Hashtag tag tag atreutiro.
Well, this has been quite the expedition. We've navigated the harmonious symphonies, the vibrant sunsets, and the smoky whispers of the Caribbean kitchen. We dove deep into the science behind 25 grams of coconut milk, the reason for 45 mint leaves, the puzzle of rum extract versus dark rum. It really proves that even something labeled as a simple starter can be, and often is, a deeply complex lesson in culinary precision, in managing contrast, in applied chemistry and physics, really.
Absolutely. These aren't just lists of ingredients. They're carefully engineered systems designed to deliver a very specific experience. Understanding the why behind each step unlocks a much deeper appreciation and hopefully better results for anyone trying them.
So, to leave our listeners with something to chew on, besides hopefully one of these starters soon, here's a final provocative thought, building on what we've discussed about palate priming.
Okay, let's hear it.
We know starters are meant to lead into the main course. Considering the vastly different end profiles we've dissected, if your main course was something heavy, rich, maybe a slow-braised short rib, or a deeply savory mushroom Wellington, which of these starters would actually be the better prelude?
Interesting question. Do you go richness on richness or contrast?
Exactly. Would the intense, simmered, slightly sweet and fatty residue of the Scarlet Shore Symphony, with its lingering dark rum and coconut notes, properly prepare your palate for more richness? Or would it fatigue it?
Right. Maybe it makes the main course feel even heavier.
Conversely, would the sharp, bright, acidic, palate-cleansing power of the Caribbean sunset, with its lime and light rum zing, be more effective? Would it cut through the richness to come? Or would the contrast be too jarring? What about the whispers, with its sweet-sour balance and sautéed notes?
It really forces you to think about the lingering aftertaste of the starter. What specific flavor compounds, fats, sugars, acids, volatile aromatics from the rum or mint are left coating your tongue? And how will those interact chemically and sensorially with the first bite of the main course? Does one starter cleanse while another builds anticipation through complementary flavors?
Something for you, the listener, to consider next time you're planning a multi-course meal. How does the end of the beginning shape the middle?
A fascinating puzzle. There's always more to unpack.